My name is Garra Ballinger, and today I'm going to share with you my memory box. Now that I'm all grown up and have children of my own, I like to share stories with my children about my past. Most of those stories revolve around one very special person, my granny. And she was no ordinary granny. She was one of a kind, tried and true, inside out, through and through, perfect. She had 6 grandkids, 3 girls and 3 boys. But only one brought her so much joy. That little girl was me. In this basket, I have memories of my granny. The first item I have is a case of Indian arrowheads. We spent hours along the banks of Lake Texoma looking for these treasures from the past. Most days, you came up empty-handed. But every once in a blue moon, luck would turn your way. And as you were walking, wiggling your toes in the sand, you would find one of these treasures from the past. I also have a recipe card. This is a recipe for pralines candy, and my granny loved to cook. Every day, 3 square meals with snacks in between, and every meal was delicious and from the heart. I have some iris flowers in my basket because my granny was a gardener. We spent a lot of time in her iris garden together. The neighborhood called it the Rainbow Garden because there were colors of the rainbow. The story I'm going to tell you today started in the garden, and it also has to do with my last object, a ceramic frog that my husband gave me when we first started dating. It was sort of a joke because my granny had told him the story of my frog phobia. And when she did, he got this frog as a reminder of that story. Today I would like to tell you the story Frog Phobia. It all started one hot summer Texas day. It was June and the sun was already beating down. My granny and I had just finished our favorite breakfast, runny eggs and toast. Before our breakfast even had time to settle, we headed to the garden. I can remember stepping on that hot sidewalk. It felt like my feet were going to burn off. It was scorching. But shoes were not required in the garden. As we stepped into the garden, we were looking for things that needed to be done, weeding and pruning. We found a shady spot. And in that shady spot was an old wooden cross, and the cross was covered with weeds. I can remember it like yesterday. I was a question asker, and as soon as I saw that cross, the questions started coming. How long has that cross been here? Who is that cross for? Why is that cross here? I could tell my granny was becoming to get irritated with all the questions, but she gave me the best answer she could. The cross, she said, was a reminder of a little dog, Nina, that she had had long before I was born, and Nina had died. The cross reminded my granny of her. Immediately, a fun day in the garden turned to a serious discussion of death, and I did all I knew to do. I zipped my lips and I didn't say another word. We weeded in silence for what seemed like forever. It was so quiet I could hear the birds chirping. I could hear the leaves rustling, and I was so ready to go back inside. As we were weeding, all I could think about was Nina and how she had died, and I wondered if my granny was sad. Well, about the time that I pulled another weed, I was in for a surprise because a giant frog leaped out at me. I screamed, "Nina has returned!" and then I jumped on my granny's back. My granny did everything she could to stay on her feet, and then she started laughing as hard as she could. I remember my heart was pounding. I wasn't laughing, I was crying, but I ended up laughing with my granny too. She explained to me that Nina had not returned from the dead, it was only a frog, and that there was nothing to be afraid of. Well, even though the weeds were all done being picked, we decided that we would pick something else. And we went and picked some of the most beautiful irises in the garden, and we placed them on that wooden cross. As we headed back inside for some sweet tea and a snack, we held hands, and we laughed so hard that we cried. Today, people in my family still tell this story of frog phobia, but I can tell you that when I see a frog, even today, I do the only thing I know to do. It's run as fast as I can.